so that if there were follow-up questions, we could continue with providing you the information that you need in order to make the best decision you can on the 22nd. But if you'd like listed specifically.
It doesn't really matter, I'm just saying we will have discussion, so it'll, just know that. It can be listed separate, it's just gonna be discussion.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we're gonna talk about it either way, so.
Okay,
I'm comfortable with it being in the scope of the list,
okay.
a line item on the list.
Thank you for helping me get some clarity. So you're gonna put together a scope for up to 30,000, and you're gonna send that over to us within the next week.
Yes.
I always have to re-verbal it just to make sure I got it.
And this
Thanks for-
footage is available on YouTube, so you can watch the film.
Yeah, riveting.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. The next order of business would be the consent agenda. No, sorry. Oh, special order business. Consider 2019 alley design scope of work, Sigma Engineering. Welcome.
Hi, Bob Petrol, the Sigma Group. Did everyone get a chance to see our PowerPoint presentation that we also put some narrative to?
I did. I watched the whole
Good.
thing.
And we also got
The
some
link
good
to,
questions.
I tried to link to the video and it didn't work.
Oh, I didn't watch the video.
It's actually a PowerPoint with audio.
Well, whatever it was, the link didn't work for me on this iPad. but
Work for
mine
me.
worked.
So I'll see it twice now. Good try though, Rebecca.
So, I'm the principal engineer for the Sigma Group, and I have with me John Castor, who's our project manager, and Steve Parse, he's our civil engineer designer. So all three of us are here to present Green Alley. I could just start by answering questions if you had questions about the presentation, or I could give you a fast version of what we presented in the 30-minute talk.
What would you guys like?
I'd like a fast version.
Okay.
Okay, real good.
Succinct.
Then we'll do succinct. Where am I going?
Down here.
What?
Down here.
Good. So here are the 8 alleys that are designated for 2019. And actually there are 2 alleys, Alley 2 and Alley 4, which have 2 segments. So there's really 10 alley segments that we have on the agenda. The 2019 alleys were part of the pavement management plan that was developed by Clark Dietz a while ago. And so this is really just the alleys that are designated for reconstruction for 2019. The $750,000 is what was earmarked for the program. So that's the number we were shooting for when we look at the alley program. Any questions about that?
We bonded for that, correct, Mark?
Correct.
This is the schedule. Right now, we have completed our surveying and our existing conditions. We're here in front of the board tonight to talk about one of the elements of our scope, which is to decide what type of alley we're going to be designing. We would like to have board direction sometime this month so we can proceed with the design. We intend to have plans, specifications, and our engineering cost opinion done in December, so we can have bid documents ready in January, so we can bid out the work in February, and we can get construction in spring. Right? It's favorable time to get construction bidding in winter time, so we can get construction under. Any questions about the schedule? So a convention alley, that's what we plan on doing. That's what was done in 2017. That's an asphalt alley. You tear up the asphalt, you undercut, take out all the bad material, you place a new alley with asphalt. Now, an asphalt alley operates primarily by taking surface drainage and making sure that it gets to the street. The street is where you actually intercept your stormwater, and you put it in one of the drains that is either in the street or at the end of the alley. That's how an alley works. We certainly have a lot of consideration about little elevations. We have to make sure the alley does drain. We don't want it to puddle, we don't want it to pond. So we have to match all the existing conditions from elevations of the entrances to the garages and stairways and such, to power poles, to all sorts of landscape and retaining walls, all the things that you find in an alley. So work around all of that. But we're also here to talk about something that is commonly called the green alley. I actually prefer to call it blue alley because it's not really green, it's more like a water treatment technique. So how a green alley works is it actually has a porous paver strip down the middle. It actually conveys the water to an under drain system, but as the water works its way to the under drain system, it gets filtered by engineered material that is placed underneath the porous paver. With a green alley, we use a concrete edge, and then we have porous pavers in the middle. So that's basically how a green alley works. Any questions about that? Some of the reasons why people look at green alleys, and it's becoming a very popular installation. The City of Milwaukee's doing it, Wauwatosa's doing it. We actually have a green alley here in Shorewood. It doesn't quite look like this. It was a little older style design. But it does improve the drainage. You know, one thing about an asphalt alley is you have to get everything exactly right from the pitches and such, so you use the surface to drain the water. With a green alley, we can actually just pitch the water to the middle, and it actually is captured by the porous strip down the middle. So it's actually a little less concrete. It's not as difficult to design when it comes to the surface drainage. There are some aesthetics. I said that you get kind of a cobblestone look with the porous pavers down the middle, and concrete, it gives you a little bit different look. One thing about a green alley is you can capitalize on some Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District funding for 2019. There's $40,000 earmarked for the village of Shorewood, and Shorewood, if they chose to go with a green alley, could actually utilize the MMSD funds. But the most important thing about a green alley is it cleans stormwater.
Trustee Carpenter.
I just have one question about snow removal. In the alleys, we don't currently go to bare pavement, so
Right.
How does a green alley sort of hold up to that?
It's going to actually have a pitch to it, and so the snow blade is not going to catch all the snow. It's going to get most of it removed, but there's that low spot where, you know, that snow will accumulate.
And the permeable pavers wouldn't be damaged from any of that?
Well, I'm not going to say wouldn't be damaged, you know, things happen, you know. You may pop a brick or two. It's just one of those things that does and could occur. I know it's all about the construction technique and making sure that it's done properly, but I can't say that, you know, a blade may catch one of those porous pavers and pop it out if it has to be replaced.
Trustee Warren.
But in your experience, there's no widespread damage after a system.
No, and we talked to Wauwatosa about it. We talked to the City of Milwaukee. You know, it's just coming to become a popular way of doing alleys. I think we just have to use, a little more careful plowing technique maybe in the alley. Maybe not putting the blade all the way down, but, you know, just working off the top of it. You know, the expectations are, do we want clean pavement down to pavement, or do we want the snow basically removed so we can get our cars up and down? Yeah.
Trustee Menton.
I had a question about the 30%, you said that.
Oh, hold on, I'll go back.
Yeah,
There you
30% runoff reduction. I mean, it looked like it was filtration, but, so it did more filtration, but how does the green alley actually reduce the amount of?
In Shorewood, you wouldn't get that, all right?
Oh.
In some areas where you have more of a sandy type soil, you'd actually want the water to percolate down into the ground.
Yeah.
But in Shorewood, because we have clay, it's probably not gonna go very far. It's probably gonna just stay in the trench and go down the drain, right? So you may get a little bit of reduction. It does actually hold back some water, so you don't get that flash that would occur. So it acts like as a storage, and maybe it gets released a little bit slower, but you're probably not gonna get quite the 30%.
Can I?
You know, this is an MMSD number, and it's a general number, but that's what you can expect, yes.
So I asked it ahead of time, and I didn't, I'm sure you were forwarded the question, but if we're not, so there's two reasons we would do green alley, and I raised this to MMSD too, if you remember, at the last meeting. There's two reasons we would do it. One is so that we're not, if the water is draining to MMSD and we have a big, heavy water load, then it's still going to be filtered, but they were trying to reduce the amount of water that was being contributing to going to MMSD during those floods.
Right.
So that's one reason. Doesn't sound like, unless there's a percentage of how long it holds it, like there's a slight reduction, but that might not be the answer.
No.
The second is how much is actually filtered of pollution per dollar that we're gonna spend and per timing of the fact that we're not gonna get to every alley, we're gonna be
Wow.
slowing down our alley. So,
I haven't run those calculations, I could probably figure it out, but,
thank you, and that, because when we were in Wilson Drive, I just wanted to share, we had spent some time on this, and we had a chart that showed like, if there are other alternatives, maybe we don't have any other alternatives to reduce pollution from water runoff. But if there were, like medians that we have, and we want different plantings, we had a chart showing that
Sure.
pavers per dollar reduces the pollution, like it was so off, like it was so much more expensive per pound of reduction per dollar spent. So that's my big question, because we are gonna be slowing, if we adopt it, we're slowing down our alley replacement schedule, and I just wanna make sure there's actual benefits that we can't achieve somewhere else for a cheaper amount.
If I could mention that, so
Yeah.
I think with the difference between the pavers and probably like the swale that's happening or the plantings that's happening in Wilson, you know, pavers versus plantings is a big difference. Pavers versus asphalt, you know, that difference gets a lot closer.
But it's still a cost, David, help me because you're the math person, but it's
Yeah.
still a cost per pound of reduction. And if you can achieve that cost, you know, for it was like $1,000 more, I mean, it was something ridiculous, I can bring the chart or forward it.
you're certainly gonna get more bang for your buck if you're using bioswales in an area that is properly designed to drain the whole area. We're talking about a narrow strip, and either you're gonna treat it or you're not gonna treat it. You're gonna treat it by putting a porous paver in the middle and treating it, or you're gonna run it off into the road and not treat it at all.
No, but I look at this as a system, which I would hope the consultant would too, and so you're in a system like a basin. And so if there's a way to use those dollars, that would be
Then
more.
you're talking about really looking at the entire drainage of the community and coming up with all different types of alternatives, so.
Which we are doing, aren't we, Leanne, don't we have that grant and we're looking at our TMDL plan, right?
We are in the process of developing a TMDL stormwater management plan, yes.
But we were doing one road and we at least had the information to make that decision, so I can
So
bring it.
if you'd like to know how much you're getting treated by an alley, I could come up with, you know, the dollar amounts and such. But this is really, you know, it's a very small step. It's a small step to take out solids from the accumulating in the sewer. Anything else about performance? Some of the things that we looked at, it does increase some construction time because it is a more sophisticated type of construction. We actually have to do concrete forming, we have to lay the pavers and such compared to stripping, taking the material out and then paving with asphalt. You have to do cleaning. Yeah.
What is the increase in construction time?
Well, you can get in and out of an alley in a couple of weeks. Something like this may take maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But, you know, this is how we would construct our bidding documents.
I think it's more of the, if we have a system of alleys, because it's more expensive or twice as much, I don't know what the cost was, but then it will take us longer to get through all the alleys.
Yeah, it would. And, you know, a lot of this is about sequencing too. You know, do you strip everything and do them all at the same time, or do one at a time? It's one of those things that we would work on with the contractor. Concrete does give you a little longer life compared to asphalt. There are some snow removal issues, even though we said it minimizes it, you have to get the alley designed properly. So the blade does take out the snow. And the pavers do give you a textured feeling. So people who are learning to ride bikes or skateboarding and such, this is a spot where, you know, they're going to get a rumble type thing activity. So it's just one of those things you'd have to get used to. So this is essentially what a green alley would look like in Shorewood. I think the alleys that we looked at all 10 of those alley segments, and there are 3 of them that are actually real good candidates to be converted to a green alley because they actually have an inlet built into the alley system. that is actually important because that then receives that under drain water and then conveys it to the local storm sewer. Some of our other alleys do not have that feature, so we would actually have to install that and run the piping, tear up the road, and install the piping that would then connect to the storm sewer. So we looked at the 10 different alleys and put priorities to the ones that are the best candidates. And here they are, 4A, 2A. Both of those alleys have a catch basin at the end of the line, so it would actually already be connected to the storm sewer. And then 4B. But 4B is actually a very long alley, so the larger the alley, the more expensive it's going to be to fix it. So we actually prioritize 4A and 2A as the two best candidates because the incremental cost is low. The rest of the alleys don't have the structure, so we would have to install the structure, and then we'd also have to install the plumbing, the piping underground, and actually open up the street so we could make the connection from the storm sewer. So that's a more expensive construction.
Is that the third, 1, 2, 3, 4th
Yeah,
column? Is it-
3 actually has a catch basin nearby in the current